Hey everybody, Tom Miller here, and oh my gosh, what an exciting day this is for me and my team because our book, The 10 Indicators of High Performing Charter Schools, is finally available. It's available wherever you want to get it. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it off of our webpage. I'm also, I send you a signed copy. We've got lots of really great bonuses around this book, but after 13 years or so, it's finally done. It's finally done. And most of if you're part of any of our groups, I got 700 on my SAT. So some things take me a little bit longer. So don't let the letters next to my name fool you like this. But this book it's an all-encompassing work. My work as a teacher, as a principal, as an independent consultant, as a state consultant, as a board member, as part of the authorizing team. Like this book is every single thing that I've learned and applied about charter schools in my last decade or so. So just and the book was designed to be a future proof, to future proof your school for any charter school leader, large leadership team, board, to future proof their school, because it's a book focused on measuring your school's current reality, which is a leader's top job, and to help you design a clear vision for what high performance would look like, and then a step-by-step plan to start to close that gap, right, between where we are now and where we aim, to be a year from now, 2 years from now, maybe even 30 days from now, right? So just a little background about why I believe this book is important and how it came about. There's currently over 7,800 charter schools across the country, and they're serving over 4 million students, right? And it's on the rise. And some states are growing by 30% per year. In North Carolina, where I had most of my work, it was 20% growth last year. But see, history also tells us that by year three, 18% of charter schools close. Many of them never get the chance to even open their doors, right? Because of lack of strategy, lack of planning, lack of facility, whatever it may be. By the end of year five, 25% of them close. By year 10, get this, everybody, 40% of charter schools close. And there's lots of different reasons, right? Now, the most common reason that people say is finances. And yes, charter schools eventually run out of money. That's the main reasons. It's fiscal mismanagement. It could be fraud. It just could be poor planning. It could be nobody's paying attention. But there's been lots of charter schools that have closed that have had a lot of assets and a lot of cash, right? So that's not always the reason. I believe it's one of the reasons. It's one of 10, right? There's 10, there's 10 indicators of high performance. And yes, I mean, finances and cash is the oxygen that will drive the success of your school, but it is not, the end all, right? So with all these, with all this, data around charter schools closing, like it just really got me, right? Okay, the schools are closing at a record rate, but enrollment is up at a record rate. Like this is something's going on here. Like, and we need a blueprint for success, right? What would success look like and feel like? So in 2022, I took a month off. I went to Europe with my family, and I gathered everything that I've ever written or done or known about my charter school work as a teacher, as a principal, as an authorizer, as a board member, as an independent consultant, right? I just mind dumped it all into one giant document. And over the last, year, we've turned it into a book. So I'm really excited for you to have, because everything in this book is something I have either applied in my life, right? Good or bad. It's got my failures as much as my wins. It's got my being put in charge of schools that were in crisis and fraud, and just it's got a lot of positives, a lot of negatives, right? So this book it'll help you risk management wise. I really make sure that you are future proofing your school. And that's why I think every board member, every charter school leader should read this book and get a copy. You can get a copy. Go to 10indicators.com, TEN10indicators.com, and you can buy it there, or you can get it on Amazon right now. So, but a little bit about how this story came, or how this book came about. I've always been curious about what effective is. I've always been a very productive person, hardworking person. I didn't always work smart. I do what my son says, right? He always says, "Dad, no, it's work harder, not smarter." And I'm like, "No, son, it's not." But you can keep working that way, and eventually, hopefully, you'll learn, right? And so I always wanted to like really get clear about what is that great school. When you see those end of the year marks, you know, the highest performing schools and the niche schools and the great schools and the USA Today schools, like what makes those schools so effective? I've always wanted, you know, to do that because that's the school that I want to be a principal of, right? And I know that's the school that, you know, parents want their kids to attend, and that's where teachers want to work at, right? So, so this book really started back like in 2010. And at the time, I was a middle school director of a charter school, and I was working on my dissertation. And you know, the school was K-8. I was in charge of 6, 7, 8, and the school was strong academically and operationally. Had a good, you know, reputation in the community. Especially our elementary school was really strong. Culturally, we were known for a lot of turnover, kind of a positional philosophy of leadership, and I didn't know better. I just got pulled out of the classroom, and I was a, you know, principal, mainly because I was promoted because I was just productive, right? But I wasn't a good leader, right? But I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But I worked hard, and I really enjoyed learning. We weren't getting the results that I really wanted. Like it's my goal to be the highest performing middle school in the whole area, and we were top, you know, 3 or 4. Our team was more competitive rather than collaborative, and I wasn't really sure how to make, you know, help them work and be cohesive. I didn't accept the feedback with a lot of grace. So I pretty much led by just modeling the way, because that's really all I knew. I just knew how to work hard, and I wasn't an effective leader. I never really went to any leadership, you know, classes, even though I was working on my doctorate, right? I had all this education. I wouldn't say I was a very effective leader. And so, you know, it really turned out to improve our school. I was not the leader at the time that they needed. I could be the person, but I needed to grow. But again, I didn't know that. So, um, what I wanted to learn was what the most effective leaders did, right? How could I take our school from here to there? So my dissertation chair and I sat down, and we looked at it and we identified 18 schools across the state of North Carolina that were deemed this high performance, whether by academic growth or by proficiency. And we reached out, and I said, "Hey, I'm Tom. I want to study your school because it's good. And here's what I want to do. You know, I want to come and do a site visit. I want to interview and just spend time in classrooms and see what makes you guys so darn good." And 5 of them said yes, right, which is really exciting. So 5 of the 18. And that's what it was. I started to dive into the effective schools research, and I came across Ron Edmonds, who's kind of the father of this. And he did a lot of work around the 7 quartiles of effective schools back in the 70s with Dr. Larry Lazard, and there's still a lot of really great research. But you know, theirs was a clear stated mission, instructional leadership by all admin, a safe learning environment, a climate of high expectations, a frequent monitoring of student progress, opportunity to learn, and student time on task, and a positive homeschool relations, right? You take those 7, like they're still really, really relevant. In fact, they're very, very clear to the 10 indicators, right? So I was like, okay, this is good. This is going to be my framework, and I'm going to be looking at these things. And so, you know, now since this time, Edmonds' work, it's been duplicated by a lot of other authors. You can go back and you know, search it. I talk about them in the book. So I really tried to get my hands on everything I could so I could be best prepared, because I was not a highly effective leader. I was an egomaniac, right? I still am at times, but I wanted to get in there and really see what was happening. So we got our criteria. I set up my map of North Carolina. Now some of these schools, some of these schools were 5 to 6 hours away by car. So I would take my vacation time. I talked to my boss. Luckily, we were a year-round school, so I had my fall and my spring breaks to take and travel around these schools. And some days, I would leave at 3 or 4 in the morning so I could get there by the time kids were arriving, because I wanted to see arrival just as much as I wanted to see a drop off and afternoons and just see and feel the culture. I put 10,000 miles on my truck in just a couple months, traveling all over the place. And so at that time, I'd only worked in three schools, right? And they were traditional schools. I worked in two traditional public schools and in one public charter school. So I really didn't have a lot of experience in seeing, other schools. So it just really opened my eyes, and it really raised my awareness, especially to meet these teachers and to meet these principals. And boy, they were so grateful that somebody cared, right? That somebody wanted to actually see and say, "Oh, I didn't even realize we were that good," right? So. But what I really loved about is how these charter schools use the community to just be a big part of who their school was. So like, whether I went the night, before and found some really, really cheap hotel, which I stayed in some places, everybody, I would be there from the beginning. I would have tons of notes. I would meet with the principal, and then I drive home, sometimes drive home was 4 or 5 hours, a lot of reflection time, right? A lot of opportunity to really think, or I'd record into my recorders. I was talking home, or I would, talk it out with my dissertation chair, maybe whatever it was. Like, it was just a really great professional development experience. And then I would, follow up with the school leader. Now, we didn't have Skype and well, we had Skype, but we didn't have, Zoom and things like that at the time. So everything was over the phone and, email. So I would plan my next trip, right? Or the next school I would go to, based upon the school I was just at, right? I was always asking them, say, "Hey, here's what I saw somewhere." And everybody got really, really curious. Well, tell me more about that other school, right? It was just really great. I didn't realize, but I was building this small community of high performing schools, right? And it was just really, really awesome. So, you know, I would come back to my school and I'd be like, "Oh my God, look what we just saw." And they were like freaking out. They're like, "Oh God, Tom's going to drop more stuff on us, like more things, right, that he's not going to follow through on." And so like it was just missing. And it was kind of one of my first lessons, right? Leadership it's caught, it's not taught, right? So that you can't just tell people where you've been and what you've done. You have to really show them, right? You have to be a good practitioner either. So so they really didn't, buy in. And really what I didn't realize, they weren't really buying into me. Like I was the, I was the conduit from that effective school. Really they were probably like, "Hey, can we get that principal to come lead our school? We can get Tom the heck out of here." So so at the end of that school year, the staff left, and I had really no plans in place for the upcoming year. That was kind of my like model. I didn't understand that you need to like really, really, you know, dig out some things in the winter, get your, planning and everything done in the spring. So the summer's just, kind of tweaking, and you could really just enjoy the fruits of your labor. Like I was like, "No, we're going to work hard over the summer." That was my thing. But I only worked by myself, right? Nobody's going to work with me. Like the school was empty. But I did have one more trip. It was the community school of Davidson. And the first time I was there, it was a magical visit, but I didn't get to meet, the founding leader. So I wanted to get back up there. And so my dad actually went with me, and he went and he fished at Lake, Norman all day long. And I met Joy Warner, right? Now this school has a wait list in the thousands. I mean, they've been high performing, they've had multiple tracks of, graduation. Like they're a true public school. They serve everybody. And I spent hours talking with Joy about how she had, designed the school. And she talked about, it was a private school at first, and the slow growth and what they had done over time to build relationships. It was based upon the basic school model. She never talked about programs or policies. She only talked about people. And so, really what it came down to, trust, right? She had this amazing trust in humans, and she had very clear non-negotiables and a clear mission of what this school and vision of what the school wanted, to be. And so like as I said, goodbye, and I picked my dad up and we drove home. Seemed like forever because we were pulling his boat. I just came to realize, like, boy, I'm doing this all wrong. I'm doing this leadership thing all wrong, right? That visit changed my life. It changed my life. And that visit, what I realized, it was just like the other 9 site visits, right? It was all the same thing. It was a focus on people. It was a focus on what we're aiming to accomplish. It was vision and values and right and really just a lot of everybody working together as one, a lot of unison. And I was like, "Oh, well, all these schools, like they all demonstrate Ron Edmonds' effective schools work, right? How did they know, right? They all had these characteristics in their own way. How did they do it? And then it hit me. It was like, well, it's the sustained behaviors of the leader. In each school that I visited, the leader had been there for 5 or more years. It was sustaining the vision, the goals, the values, the behaviors that we wanted, to see. They understood how to set the goals, how to create strategy, and how to execute their strategy. But they did it through the talents and the skills of other people. Right? They were building capacity in others. I mean, folks have been there a long time through trust-based leadership practices. So when our school year started, right, here I was almost done my dissertation, and my staff was probably anxious because it was our third summer together, I think, or third, start of the year. And they're like, oh God, what has Tom got? And I walked in and I just shared the one secret. I said, hey guys, we're all going to work on one initiative this year. Just one. Building relationships, right? Relationships from student to student, student to teacher, teacher to home, teacher to director, right? We're going to reshape, like I didn't know and understand all this culture talk, but that's what we were doing. We were reshaping the culture of the school through common values, common language, common goals. Now, most of our teachers had been with me for 3 years now. So they really started to build a pretty strong bond. They were starting to get to know each other and build those relationships. And as we did this, and I talk about this in the book, as we started to do it, like the most amazing things started to happen. All the initiatives that I had tried over years started to organically happen. And they happened at a very high level. Some of them, it's been more than 10 years. They still do them. They still do some of the school improvement initiatives that I saw during my first treks in 2010. It's 2024 when I record this video. And the school that I left is still doing it. And that's really where this book was born, right? And from that time, right, from that study, I had a baseline of what makes charter schools effective. There was 5 things: clear and sustained mission, site-based decision-making, expanded professional opportunities for employees, multiple levels of parent engagement, and student-focused education plans. Those 5. And I took those 5 and within like 30 days of graduation, I was recruited to the Office of Charter Schools in North Carolina, where I became an authorizer. I was part of the authorizing team. The state of North Carolina just eliminated the cap on charter schools. They had 100 at the time, and they're over 200 now. But I mean, this is 2012, and it was growing fast. This new role really allowed me to test my research, right? To put these schools, through this framework. And over the next 3 years, I walked the hallways of, anywhere between 60 to 75 of the 100 and some schools. I was fully in charge of the charter application process. So I read over 500 charter applications over 3 years. I was part of the process with 70 schools being approved to open over 3 years in North Carolina. I was in charge of the ready to open process. I got to walk the halls, right? I mean, I got to really see and understand why charter schools either fail to open or fail to stay open past year 3. And I put it in this book. It's all in this book, right? In 2014, I launched my leadership company, Leaders Building Leaders. We aim to be the difference maker in the leadership development of individuals and organizations, really focusing on creating high performing charter schools. And I've put myself through many leadership programs, certifications, just so I could be that leader that I hoped I was back in 2010. Now, over the last decade, my life has completely accelerated, right? From being that middle school teacher to the middle school director to the Office of Charter Schools and the company that I run now and the charter school that I now lead. I've walked hundreds and hundreds of hallways. I've interviewed hundreds of principals, good and bad. I've led schools through crisis. I've identified fraud in schools. I've helped schools open, right? Everything I've done over that time is in this book. Every single thing, everything I saw, everything I learned, everything I wish I knew before, I got hit by the 2x4. It's all here, right? So the benefits of this book, one, it's going to give you a common language around strategy and plan. It's really going to help you know what success looks like, right? What victory looks like, and measure, because it has a measuring tool. It's going to measure where you currently are against that, success. And so, when you have a common language around strategy and plan, right, a team doesn't win the championship if all of its players are working from a different script and different agenda, right? This book's going to help you create a common plan for all 10 critical areas of school success. You're going to know what's next. Like, this book is going to help you create a very simple action plan. I mean, most of the leaders we run into when their schools are in struggle, like they're just so busy, they don't really have the time to just write out a plan, right? Just communicate the plan. And as a result, their people get frustrated because they're not really sure what the heck is going on. This book's going to help not only you write the plan, but share the plan. It'll be a common plan. And you'll be able to delegate, empower, and equip your team. It's going to help you create a clear vision, right? A clear vision and clearer communication to those you serve. If you've ever walked down the school, the hallway and seeing kids, not do what you want, right? The transition's like, that's not what I want. Or you go out to the car pickup line and it's like all over the place. Like, this isn't what I want. But most of the time, leaders don't know how to communicate that except in a negative way, right? There's a formula inside this book that help you have that conversation and help you communicate with clarity, consistently, and create cohesion. It's in the book, right? It's in the book. So, book's got 3 elements. It's based on 20 plus years of best practice research. Any level of school leader in any school, this book it's fine for school districts. It'll be a great tool for school districts. It's a great tool for private schools. It's a fantastic tool for charter schools, right? Even a homeschool parent could even use this. There's a school in every community across the world. This book will serve it. I promise you, right? I promise, or I'll pay you back. I'll give you your money back, right? But it's going to help you create that common language that you need to communicate that mental model of perfection, like what sits in your head. I mean, you're literally going to have a blueprint for success for each of the 10 indicators for your school. It's got an easy to use common assessment tool that you can take online, and you can have your team take it online. In less than 10 minutes, you have your results. You can print them out. You can sit down and you look at our wheel of success, and you're going to have a diagram of how everybody sees your school right now. What are the strengths? What are the areas for growth, right? It's going to help you start, right? It's going to help you prioritize. And then it's going to give you what the best leaders do. Every leader I've run into that I've had the opportunity to, talk to, I've put their strategies in this book for you to help you create a skinny strategic plan. If you're going to be part of the book study, I'm going to teach you how to do this skinny strategic plan process to help you close that gap from here to there. I mean, imagine if you have a cell phone, like this is, and you've put a destination in, right? You go to your Google Maps or your Apple Maps or whatever, right? And you type in the destination. And then it asks you, well, where do you want to start from? That's what this book does. This book says, okay, what would success look like? Now, where are you? Right? Take the assessment. And then it's going to help you navigate that map all the way through. And it's going to give you the step-by-steps and a way to continue to measure for success, right? You might know the destination, right? I want to be in A school. I want to be fully enrolled. I want to have a high-performing staff. But unless you know what the current reality is, you're not really sure where to start from, right? And everybody has to grow from where they are. You can't draw a map if you don't know those 2 points. And that's what this book does. It's going to help you draw that map, okay? So it's a book of systems and frameworks any school leader can use to assess their school's current practices and make those minor and or major tweaks to help you improve your school's overall success, okay? So this book is as much as a school improvement book as it a book on effective leadership. It identifies these 10 indicators for you, and I'm just really excited for you to have it in your hands. So go to 10indicators.com, or you can go to Amazon and search 10 indicators of high-performing charter schools and get a copy, okay? And this, this goes back to Ron Edmonds' work, which is really almost 50 years old now. That's an extension of his work, right? And I've been writing this book since 2010, so no judging. I told you, it takes me a little while to get it going, right? But everything in this book is either something I have implemented as a school leader or worked to implement, right, and failed forward. They are proven practices, and I share what not to do as well. It's all right. I believe that every challenge, every drawback, every mistake, and every perceived failure, right, is life bringing you to an opportunity to grow. And I write those stories in this book. You may cry a little and just say, why am I reading Tom's book? I promise there is a positive ending at the end, right? So if you're willing to, so sharing my mistakes and blunders, if it helps accelerate your growth, then rock on. That's exactly what I want to do. So my first book, first of its kind, it's going to be critical to the growth and the sustainability of the school that you lead. All right. So go ahead and get your copy. And then when you get your copy, go back to the 10indicators.com and you click on the bonus button because I have all the templates that I talk about in the book. You can download for free, and you can have access to some live trainings and some book study opportunities that we're going to have with this book over the next couple months. All right. So if that sounds good to you, go get your book now. Thank you again for what you do as an educator. You are making a difference in the world. And I thank you for allowing me to be a very, very tiny part of your giant journey. Bye-bye.